So I'm working on sewing the binding to the quilt. This is the last step. A couple of tricks that I have learned, putting lots of bindings on lots of quilts. A couple things. So the first is your thread. I think that that's very important. I definitely like the YLI threads. They come in a variety of colors. I use 100. That works the best for me, and I use this type of thread on all my applique and the binding. Color choice, I try to just kind of see what works best. I go darker works best for me. So on this case, I did choose the black. I've got a darker binding going, and don't really like the stitches to show. It's nice to keep them all together. They are not cheap. They're about $5 a spool, so keep them nice in a nice container. I always know where they are, and I don't lose them. The next thing is I've found is the setup is really important, because this is a pretty long process, and I just use a TV tray. It helps for the weight of it, gets it off of my lap, and you can just easily kind of maneuver it where you want. I would highly suggest getting in a comfortable position. I like in front of the TV set. A good movie is always good. Another trick that is very helpful are these clips. Very nice that you can just hold your binding in, move them as you need them as you go. Really helpful. Like that a lot. They work great. I only use about 3 of them on this kind of project because I just move them up. But it does really keep the binding right where you want to sew it. And I have found that to be extremely helpful. This is the first time I've used it on the binding. Highly recommend it. Personally, I think needles are very personal. I like a very stiff needle. I like it a little longer, and I definitely like the eye that I can thread and not fight with. Also, my setup, I've got good lighting, and I use a thimble. I use a thumb thimble, and this is actually a tailor's thimble. Maybe we can talk about thimbles sometime, but I bought just a variety of them so that I could try out different fingers, different sizes, how they felt, different thicknesses. For different projects, I'd use different thimbles, but on my binding, I use a thumb thimble. But it works great for this because I can push my needle through if I need to, pull it up, and it works great. How I'm going to do this is I'm just going to take a small stitch from the backing to the binding and pull it up. Now, sewing your binding on, I have done it a couple different ways. Just your standard, taking a small stitch from the backing, and each stitch individually. Sometimes every once in a while you want to secure that, and this is fine. I'm kind of running out of time on this. This is a gift. It's a birthday present, and I still have to wrap it, mail it, finish it. So a lot of times I don't want to take that much time. It's a nicer stitch. It holds it a little better, a little closer, but like I said, depending on what you got going. So I often take just kind of a running stitch. It's kind of like a little bit of a quilter's. I do an up and down motion. Sometimes I can actually feel it. The needle on the back, I back out just a little bit, bring it up. It's maybe, I don't know, that's probably ½ inch or so. I also use the thimble to pull the needle out, and about every ½ inch or so I will take a locking stitch to lock it in. But I find that this kind of running stitch, quilting stitch, is a lot faster. But I really do like these binder clips. I haven't used them a lot on the binding, but I sure will. I use about 3 of them. You have to move them as you go. And you want to make sure that you've got a comfortable spot. I don't think holding right on them is very good. So below it, above it. And then if you lose track, you can run your needle down, and that's where I am, right there. Make sure you cover your seam, which it's easily seen there. You want to cover that, and then here we go. Take that running stitch. Not too big. I mean, you just kind of want to rock it back and forth. See a little bit of your needle, but push it through, pull it up, take a locking stitch, and that's all there is to it. All the way around. Pretty time consuming, suggest a movie or two. Sometimes that depends on the quilt size. Takes a few more. I'm coming upon the corner. I want to show you how easy it is and how nice the corners come out. So you just turn that edge over. It just kind of falls in place. So you want to make sure that right here is the fold. And with this fabric it's kind of hard to see it, but right here, and that's perfect. That just is exactly to the corner. So just make sure that if it's not fully formed, that you kind of work that out. You just go ahead and stitch it all the way down. Now I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to make it come out right at the point. Drop it down just a little bit. Push it all the way through, because I'm going to wrap this around. So I'm going to use my binder clips. They're not binder clips, sorry, clips. I'm going to use my clips to hold it in place. I'm going to fold it over. Okay, that's exactly where I want it. I'm still debating whether I like the flat side up or the round side. It doesn't really matter, but I'm still kind of playing around with that. Kind of like the flat side. Alrighty. Now, since my needle, I've already taken it to that point, all I have to do, well, this is a very tight binding, so you just really have to kind of make sure you're covering your original stitch in here. And I sew this down. Okay, but that is exactly how that corner should be. A couple more here. And that's how it's going to look. That mitered looks like the mitered edge right there.